In this video, I'm going to talk how real estate investing can help the gig workers. I hope you stay for the whole video. I have some very important and interesting strategies that you could use in order to kind of smooth out your income peaks and valleys, bridge some gaps in income, and also prepare for retirement and maybe even early retirement. So who is part of the gig economy? I have a pretty broad definition of the gig economy and the gig workers. For me, the gig worker is anybody that is selling their time for money who is not working as a full-time employee. I know that's a pretty broad definition, but I want to make it as broad as possible because I think that so many people think of themselves as a business owner or something like that, when in fact they are kind of like just the one-man show working as an independent consultant and not really, which I would consider to be a gig worker, not necessarily a business owner at that point. So why do workers want to be part of this gig economy? I think that most of the workers in the gig economy are not doing it by choice. It's just that their job is actually more suitable to be paid per hour and being very flexible in terms of time. So there's a lot of workers like that it's not a choice that they made to be part of this gig economy, it's just their job, the nature of their job. In terms of the rest of the workers, they're doing it basically for work flexibility. Some of them are kind of like independent contractors or independent consultant, and they're really focusing on that independent part where they basically they feel like they have a certain level of independence. They can choose their hours, they can choose where they work, they can choose all kinds of different things. So they feel that they have some work flexibility, and then they can do what they want from that perspective. Similarly, they can choose to go on vacations and all of that whenever they want. Some workers actually can get an increased hourly rate if they go independently. So that's pretty interesting, but it doesn't happen to everyone. So there are a lot of other workers that are independent and that they're being squeezed because of the competition. But often that's where people want to be. They think that they can get an increased hourly rate for the work that they've done. Also, getting paid for hours that you actually worked. So sometimes as an employee, you're working 60 hours a week, but you're only getting paid for 40 hours a week if you're a salaried worker. If you are in that situation, you may feel that, well, at least if I'm getting paid for the hours that I work, I would really increase my salary or my earnings by 50%, which is a significant amount of money, obviously. And there are some tax advantages. Being an independent consultant and some gig workers, you are allowed some expenses that normally a full-time employee would not be able to deduct from their income tax. For example, the use of part of your home as an office, being able to deduct mileage for using your car to go back and forth between work, between jobs, etc. So these are the kind of things that tax advantages that you have as an independent or a gig worker compared to a full-time employee. But what happens in reality to these gig workers? What we found when we look at some statistics on the US Census Bureau is that the gig workers are actually making 58% less than the full-time employee. And I think that part of that is the reduction in hours. The average number of hours worked by the gig worker is about 25 hours. So significantly less than the 40 hours full-time. So that could be one component. And I think also that some of these workers, they don't have the same level of the ability to compete for a higher rate, as they may start with a higher rate at the beginning, but as their projects or the time goes by, often their hourly rate goes down or doesn't go up as high as it should, doesn't follow the inflation, for example. And in fact, when we look at the inflation over the last 15 years, we looked at the hourly earnings, and it has gone up by 2.7%. And when we compare that to the inflation rate year over year over the last 45 years, it has increased by 3.5%. So that means that really the hourly workers are losing about 1% of purchasing power every year, which is very significant. The pandemic also has kind of emphasize or push people or allowed people to work from home. So that changes the dynamic a little bit. Previously, a lot of people were able to, they had to go to the office in order to work. So now I think that because of that, people are able to work in all kinds of different areas. So for example, let's take a software engineer that's an independent contractor, a gig worker in Silicon Valley. He's doing very well. The pandemic hits, they say, well, you don't have to work in Silicon Valley anymore. You can work anywhere you want. So before, that software engineer was competing with other software engineers basically in the Silicon Valley area because they wanted to have someone that was close by that could come in the office. Now that same worker is competing with potentially a software engineer in Austin, someone in Sacramento, maybe someone in LA, someone in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, someone in Florida, because he's working from home. From the manager's perspective, it's really the same. He's no different. He's not coming in the office anymore. He's not available for like whiteboard meetings and stuff like that and building the relationship. So he's really part of any other kind of workers, independent workers that is working remotely. And right now I'm only talking about onshore workers. You can add to that the offshore workers in in India, which is pretty famous, but also in Asia and all of that. So I suspect that this is really increasing the competition for these gig workers, and it's going to make things more difficult. So that's what I'm seeing. So the effect of that, I think, is going to be a pressure on the rate, the hourly rate for some of these skilled workers and unskilled workers to go down. That's what I'm expecting. But what's the effect of that? What's the effect of the gig economy? I think it's more uncertainty. So you may end up where, especially if you work on projects or time-bound kind of effort and work, I think what you're going to see is more like income peaks and valleys. So you could have a great project where you're working 60 hours a week, you're paid per hour, and the hourly rate is great, and you're making a lot of money. This is great. The next gig after that, then the hourly rate is not that good, but it's a good project and it's gonna last for a little bit longer, so you're comfortable with that. So you're gonna have these income peaks and valleys, but you can also have these income gaps in income. So you have a project that ends, and it may take you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months to find another project. I've worked as an independent consultant for over 25 years, and I've seen a lot of that. You work on a project for 60 hours a week, you have a great hourly rate, and you're just rolling in it. Things are doing great, and then the project ends for whatever reason. It could be end of the budget, change in direction from the company, change in technology, whatever it is. And then they end the project abruptly. You find yourself without a job, and now you're looking for your next gig. And it may take a week, 2 weeks if you're lucky. After 2 or 3 months, then you kind of get a little bit desperate. You're thinking about maybe, should I sell my house? Should I do this? Should I do that? Then the next gig comes in, and it's a much lower rate than what you had before, but you've been out of work for 2 or 3 months now, and now you say, okay, well, that looks pretty good. I don't want to lose my house. I'm going to take it. And all of a sudden, you end up taking a pay cut of 30% or 25% because you want to have some money coming in. Also, if you want to have time off, obviously time off, you're not getting paid for that because you're paid per the hours that you worked. And when you think of retirement itself, so how do you prepare for retirement? So there's a lot of uncertainty about that, and being able to save and do something in order to prepare for early retirement. So these are kind of the effect of the gig economy. And so I was thinking quite a bit about real estate investing and how it could help the gig worker actually kind of mitigate all these effects of the gig economy. First of all, when we look at resources, we look at time, money, and skills, right? So when you look at time, if you're working only 25 hours a week, which is the average, that means you have more time for you to basically learn real estate investing, learn some new skills, and then maybe start building up some and looking at some real estate investment opportunities and doing something about it and participating actively in these real estate investments. So that's one aspect of it. So you have more time to figure out these things. If you're working more, you have maybe more money, then so the more money part of it can also help you invest in real estate. So if you have these income peaks where you have a lot of money, take some of that surplus and invest it in a passive income real estate rental. So like a single family rental, for example, just buy a turnkey rental property is going to generate passive income. So when you are in the valley, then that passive income is actually going to add up to your lower rate and then kind of like smooth it out. So you remove from the peaks, invest in passive income, and then it's going to smooth out your income peaks and valleys. It would also help you bridge these gaps in income, or at least you would have a little bit of money that would be coming in from your passive income investment. Additionally, when you were looking at retirement and early retirement, as you build that passive income portfolio, once you reach a level where you are at 80% of your expenses that are covered by your passive income portfolio, it gives you a lot of additional flexibility in terms of taking more time off, more vacation, also being more careful about picking the next gig that you're going to work on and making sure that it really fits what you want to do and what you enjoy doing. So it's going to be a lot more interesting for you. And then finally, if it helps you get ready for retirement and maybe even early retirement. I hope that you found these strategies helpful, and I hope you're going to start implementing some of them. It doesn't take that much effort to do this, but I think it is very critical for independent workers and gig workers to basically start preparing for the future and smoothing out these income peaks and valleys, and then bridge the gaps and then get ready for retirement and more financial freedom. If you like this video, make sure you click the like button, the thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm kind of spread out the good word about financial freedom. If you like anything that deals with real estate investing, investment, entrepreneurship, financial freedom, feel free to watch the other videos on my channel. Make sure you click that notification button, that little notification bell, so that you get notified whenever a new video is posted on my channel. So thank you very much. Enjoy your gig.